Hi everyone, it's Laura and I hope you're all doing well. So I got a request to make a video about binge eating. So if you're interested, then let's get started. So there's so many factors that play a role in binge eating and it's super complicated. It's totally dependent on the person and their situation. So today I'm just going to give you some broad tips for tackling binge eating, and hopefully you can apply some of them to your life if it's something you're struggling with. And if you have any additional tips, then feel free to leave them below and we can all kind of help each other out in this. So my first tip, it's pretty obvious, but a lot of times people don't take the time to figure out why. Being able to identify why is super, super important when trying to conquer your binge eating. For some people, it's emotional. For some people, it's not. It's that they don't eat enough earlier in the day. For some people, it's stress related. For some people, it's lack of sleep. So it's super important to be able to identify why. And if you can't, then I encourage you to take steps to do so. And what I recommend in doing this is to keep a journal. And you don't have to document every single thing about your day, but just keep bullet points about maybe what you ate and how you were feeling or what was going on, and try to identify the circumstances before, during, and after a binge. Because in order, like I said, in order to conquer this, it's super important to be able to identify why. So my next tip I briefly mentioned, but it's to get adequate sleep. It's super important to get at least 6 hours of sleep a night, ideally 7 or 8. And there is a strong correlation between adequate sleep and weight status. So people that don't get enough sleep tend to weigh more. It's harder for them to keep the weight off, and over time they gain more weight. So it is important to get adequate sleep. And this is something that you need to make a priority, just because in addition to your weight, sleep impacts so many other functions in your body and is super important for overall health. So even apart from your weight, getting adequate sleep is extremely, extremely important. So if you're not doing so, then like I said, I would make it a priority. My next tip is to have coping mechanisms for stressful times in your life. So people that perceive themselves as being at a higher stress level tend to weigh more, and similar to the sleep, have a harder time getting it off. So if you are someone that you feel like your baseline stress levels are high, then it's important that you find ways to deal with those, whether it's prayer, meditation, exercise, super important, whether it's talking it out, whether it's getting adequate sleep. Being able to cope with stress is beneficial for people dealing with binge eating, for people that are obese, overweight, who need to lose weight. Figuring out ways to better manage those are important if it's something that you feel like is a problem for you. It is relatively difficult for research to quantify stress because it is extremely subjective, but the literature that's out there talks about perceived stress levels. So it's all about how you perceive your stress to be. So if you perceive them to be high, then figuring out coping mechanisms and utilizing them. So my next tip is to choose quality over quantity. So it's extremely important that when you're choosing which foods to eat, that you're choosing foods that are really high in quality. So we want fresh, plant-based, wholesome ingredients. We don't want processed junk. We don't want anything that's made in a manufacturer. We want things that are made outside in nature. We don't want you to be putting chemicals, preservatives, additives, and all this junk in your body that's doing nothing for your body, not providing any nutrition, any nourishment, and it's just pure chemicals. That does nothing for you. It doesn't benefit you in regards to your binge eating. It doesn't benefit you in regards to your health. in regards to anything. My next tip is to focus on what you can have and focus on what you can do instead of what you can't have and what you can't do. Try and stay in as much of a positive mindset as possible. It's one of those things that if you don't believe you can stop binge eating, then you're never going to. Just like anything else in life, if you don't believe in yourself, it's never going to happen. So try and stay as positive as possible, even when you're struggling and going through a hard time. Positive self-talk, self-love, and not focusing on the negatives, on what you're doing wrong, but focus on what you are doing right. So my last tip kind of piggybacks on to the eating fresh foods and self-love, but it's self-respect. And by self-respecting yourself, along with that goes physical activity. It's super important to take time to take care of your physical body, because without that, you can't give of yourself to other people or take care of other people if you yourself are not healthy. It's not selfish to take time to exercise. Like I said, in order to help other people, you have to take care of yourself first. I hope some of these tips helped you out. Like I said before, if you have any additional tips, feel free to leave them below. I'd love for us all to help each other out and stay strong, because it's a hard journey to be on, but keep the light at the end of the tunnel in sight and you'll get there. And like I said, I hope these helped y'all out. If you have any questions, comments, again, leave them below and I'm here for y'all. So stay strong.